That now it's recording. Okay, welcome to the Calumet Revisited Forum. I am Michael Bowes of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. I am co-host with Dr. Valerie Penninan of Calumet College, and I expect her to join us shortly. We wish you a glorious Groundhog Day. Before we hear from this evening's speaker, Loyce Fandre, do I pronounce that right? Loyce?
Fandre is good, yeah.
Fandre, okay, close. Are there announcements? Anybody who's written anything or having a huge meeting? If not, I would like to make two brief ones. First, the Calumet Nature Exchange will have its monthly meeting at 10 a.m. Saturday, February 13th, by way of Zoom. Teachers, youth group leaders, and students are welcome to attend. And the second announcement is that my book, Where's Mike, has been published. It's the second volume of my childhood memoir. And so finally that has arrived. The presentation this evening is being recorded. The recording will be available within a week on Ollie's website.
Hi, Craig.
Hey, Loyce. Good to see you.
Maybe.
Yeah, it will be.
And I, at this point, would like to turn this over to Loyce, who should not be on mute, but let's have everyone else on mute. Thank you. Loyce?
All right. So do I just need to push share screen? Is that right? Or
yes, push.
Is this showing all right?
It's showing as beautiful.
All right. Now I have to try to.
Dragonflies.
All right. Let me see if I can get rid of some of this extra stuff that's all over the screen. All right. My name is Loyce Fandre, and I was a teacher for several years over in the Hammond School District, and now since 2014 have worked at Gibson Woods Nature Preserve, which is part of Lake County Parks, and we are located in Hammond, Indiana. So originally well, when I started working in 2014, we got a book in 2015 called Dragonflies of Indiana by James R. Curry. And I've always had a love of dragonflies. And so I asked Joy, I was getting ready to leave on vacation, could I take this book with me and study it while I was on my vacation? And of course she said, sure. And as I was reading through the book, it gives a page description of the different dragonflies of Indiana and a little chart up in the corner where he talked about which county he had found them in. And there were only 11 species that he had listed for Lake County, Indiana. And 3 of those were historical: the Hines emerald, the chalk-fronted corporal, and the lily pad clubtail hadn't been seen, you know, in years. Hines emerald last in 1945. The other 2 as far back as 1917. So that became my mission, to find what are all of the dragonflies in Lake County, because I knew in my yard I had seen some that he didn't have listed. So I thought, well, there must be others out there. So that became my mission, to find out all of the dragonflies for Lake County. I search for dragonflies in what I call the northwest corner of Indiana. That would include over to LaPorte County and then down Stark, Jasper, Pulaski, and Newton counties. That's kind of my my area that I'm able to go out, or my husband will allow me to go out and search for dragonflies in. And I counted in his book, Curry's book, about 58 species in that particular location. Right now, I'm at 36 for Lake County out of those, and Gibson Woods, of course, is where I work, so I spend most of my time there. And I have found 28 different species at Gibson Woods alone. So it has been a wonderful treasure trove of dragonflies for me to study. First off, dragonflies are a class 2 indicator species, meaning they're moderately intolerant to pollution. So if we're not seeing dragonflies at a particular body of water, then you know that body of water has a problem. Some kind of pollution is going on there, because the nymphs live in water and they require oxygenated water. Even though some may be more pollution tolerant than others, they still need that good oxygenated water in order to breathe. So if we're not seeing those dragonflies, then we want to try to find out what the problem is with the water. Just a couple of things about the body of a dragonfly that will help us in our identification. The stigma is the spot that you see on the leading edge of the wings of all dragonflies. It's dark, it could be black, sometimes it's red or yellow, or there's one that's multicolor. But that, they think, helps one dragonfly recognize another one. Another important spot is the nodus, which is a spot where the leading veins all come together and it allows the wing to bend. So when the dragonfly is flying in high wind conditions, the wind is gonna let the wing bend a little bit at that nodus so that the wing does not break. The last three things that we need to know about are related to sexing of the dragonflies. The cerci are at the end of the abdomen. This whole long piece here is the abdomen, not the... And the cerci are a pair of appendages in the male that help to grasp the female when he's holding her, when he's flying in tandem with her, and then later when they're actually mating together. The other piece of that triad, you might say, is an epiproct, which is at the bottom of the abdomen, and that also is used in holding the female's head during mating. The male has his reproductive information, you might say, down here towards the end, but what he does is he flips his abdomen, and underneath his second segment, there's a spot where he stores then the sperm before the female is going to receive it. So that's important for identification purposes, because they're all different. If you're having trouble identifying a dragonfly, then looking at the male hamules is one way that you can help identify it. The head of the dragonfly, dragonflies have these huge big eyes. We all know that. They have about 160 degrees worth of sight. Their poorest spot of seeing is behind and below their head, of course. But everywhere else, they have excellent vision, up to 30,000 in a larger dragonfly, Omatidia. That's the tiny little lenses that make up the compound eye that are very sensitive to motion, helps them see their prey, you know, what they're looking for, and to try and stay away from predators as well. All insects, including then dragonflies, have three simple eyes. They're called ocelli, and they are located right in front of the eyes. And they think they're good for detecting color. They can see in the ultraviolet range and may aid in their stability in flight. The frons is the forehead, and that's actually in front of the eyes and may help in identification by color or something. And then they have tiny little antennae very, very small antenna, which they think may help to measure airspeed. Some general facts before we get into looking at some pictures. Dragonflies don't sting or bite. They will bite. I held one in my hand with his wings between my fingers when I was trying to identify a shadow walker, listen to me, shadow darner years ago. And he just reached his head around and nipped me in the fingers because he was trying to get away. So unless you're doing something like that, you don't have anything to worry about a dragonfly. They are our friends. They eat lots and lots of mosquitoes. So we love our dragonflies. They don't walk. They may use their legs to position themselves on a stem or a leaf or something, but basically their legs are used for perching and of course holding their prey. They find prey. They don't really hear sound, but they're very sensitive to vibration. So you can yell if you're out on the path, but if you're stomping your feet or moving your arms, of course, then they're gonna notice that sort of thing. We already mentioned they have about 360 degrees worth of vision. No real sense of smell. Their antennae are those tiny little antennas, so they don't really have a sense of smell like maybe a moth has these huge, long, beautiful antenna. Dragonflies do not have that. Males are very territorial. Actually, they go out and they try to find a spot that they think a female will like. And then the female comes and she finds her territory. And if there's a male there and she kind of likes him, then she says, well, this is where I want to be and you're here also. So, let's get together, I guess. They don't really hunt in cold temperatures because they need to warm up to be able to fly because they're cold-blooded. So cold temperatures aren't really good for looking for dragonflies. Cloudy days, I don't usually get too many dragonflies on a cloudy day either. So I like to sleep in, do all my dragon flying generally after 9:30. So I'm going to say anytime after 8. In the summer, they still have to dry off and let the dew get off of their wings before they can fly because underneath inside or high up in trees, they might in the morning has to dry off before they be able to take off and fly. Flight, 4 wings, as all insects do, and they move independently. Each one rotates on its own axis, allowing them to move forward. They can move backwards. They can go up. They can go down. They can move side to side. They can hover for about a minute. And the larger dragonflies, they're saying the top speed is about 30 miles per hour. Feeding behavior, there's 2 types for dragonflies. One is called hawking. That same as with a bird, they hunt by sight. They're flying around, they see an insect flying, they grab it with their legs. And some of them actually then eat on the fly as well. Others will take their prey and go find a nice quiet spot to rest on while they're eating whatever they manage to catch. The other type are called salyers, which are the perchers. They're sitting around. A lot of the skimmers are perchers, and they will sit on a branch someplace or a leaf, and then they're watching around. You might see their head move from side to side. You might, and they grab very same flies, and you found leave likely to come back. Flies are predators. They are, I call them an opportunistic generalist. I was a biology teacher, so I kind of use that term. They'll eat anything that they can grab. They'll take bees, they'll take mayflies, they'll take flies, they'll take moths and butterflies. And this is a picture of a eastern pondhawk eating a meadowhawk of some type. There are several different types of meadowhawks. So they will eat other dragonflies as well. The nymphs are also predators. They're going to eat bugs. They can eat small fish. They'll eat tadpoles. And on the flip side of that, they are also prey. Uh, Dragonflies are a huge source of food for birds, spiders, frogs, fish, lizards, other dragonflies. We just saw that. This picture was taken by a friend of mine. I wish it was my capture black. Also for birds. Where are we going to see our dragonflies? Well, I've seen them in my yard, park or a field, local ponds. All the different dragonflies each have their own type of habitat that they like. Some like still water, some like clear water, some like moving water, some like the marshy kind of areas. Some you may only find by a lake. So depends on the habitat, what kind of dragonflies you're going to see. But I've had as many, I think I have 8 or 9 species that I found in my yard, and I'm just in Highland, no particular water source close by. Lifespan of a dragonfly, the nymphs spend most of their time, most of their lives in the water. Could be a small amount, like 2 months, or as long as 6 years up north, where the waters might be really cold. It might take 6 years for a darner to emerge. It may stay in the water that long. Dragonflies live from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. They live to reproduce. So as long as they're finding opportunities to reproduce and they're finding a food source, then they will live. But they do have a definite, what we call a flight time, where they just die out after they have done what they were born to do. Some dragonflies are known to migrate, or they call it migration. You've heard probably of these mass groupings of common green darners and a few other darners mixed in with them in July. That's when most of the darners come out or emerge. And they're, after they have emerged and do their mating, many of them will fly south. Once they get south, they will mate and then die off, and then their next generation will be the darners to come back north again. Same for the variegated meadowhawk, both the red and the black saddlebags, they believe may go as far as South America and then come back up this direction. Dennis Paulson has a new book out. I think it came out last year or the year before. And he's got some new information about what they think is going on with the darners. But basically, that's kind of what they think. It's kind of like the butterfly thing, you know, with the monarchs, where it's a different generation that comes back than what headed down to begin with. I think that's the way it is with, I'm not a butterfly person, but anyway. Life cycle, we incomplete metamorphosis, we into we call a nymph, and that nymph molts bigger until it gets to it is supposed to be on seas and water temperature, and then into the adult dragonfly. When a dragonfly emerges, it is an adult. It is as big as it's going to get. There's not a baby dragonfly in it's growing. It did all of that growing as a nymph in the water. So this is a picture of the what they call the exuviae, which is what's left over after the dragonfly has emerged. And this is the dragonfly that came from that. So once he's out, he starts pumping and pumping, and all the fluids from his body expand into his wings and his body until he's uh, fully formed, you might say. I think this was taken up in Minnesota. I think this is a chalk-fronted corporal based on what I was seeing as far as a lot of adults in the area, but can't be sure because when they first emerge, they don't have a lot of color to them. So it's kind of hard for me anyway, because I've only been doing this for about 5 years. So I'm still kind of new and unsure of, like what it might, if I haven't seen it at that stage before, then it's kind of hard for me to identify it. Once they have emerged and their wings have hardened off, you might say, then it's time to mate. Okay, so we call when a dragonfly male is holding on to a female, we call that being in tandem. So you might see when you're out fishing or something, or out, on your nature hike, one dragonfly pulling another one. That's the male is the lead, and he's holding on to the female behind her eyes and in front of her eyes with his epiproct and his cerci. And he's dragging her off to the no-tell motel. Okay, once he gets to a place that he feels comfortable, then they have what we call the mating wheel, where if the female is happy with him, she will go ahead and swing her abdomen up to his hamules, which, remember, we're on the second segment. And if he notices any other previous mating having gone on, he will clean all of that sperm out with his special little scoop and then insert his sperm packet so that it's his sperm that are going to fertilize her eggs and not some previous person, right? Previous dragonfly. You may see sometimes with some species a dragonfly on the water, and she's and I think I have a little video of that, dipping into the water while she's laying her eggs. And there may be more than one male flying over her. One of those males is trying to protect her. The other one's trying to grab her. So their females are always in high demand. So let's see if this is an eastern pond hawk at Marquette Park Lagoon in Gary, and she released this of a, I don't know which one because there are different species, and when they're tenoral, the wings are very soft. Go fly someplace where they feel protected until their wings can harden off. And right now she's got very, very shiny translucent wings, so she's still pretty new. After she hardens off, those wings are going to darken up a little bit and look a little stiffer. And then they can fly with wings like this. Obviously she flew to get to where she's at, but they want to let themselves get ready for want to find a place where they out of, say, a bird's eye view, or whoever else might be out there trying to eat them. Once they are off, you see them out flying around. Looks like the female, an immature male calico pennant. This is her male calico pennant. It's going to be a while. The female is yellow. We'll see a picture later. uh, male, when he's mature, beautiful red color. I ever saw was at Gibson Woods. I thought, oh, that's a dragonfly I'll never get to see. And then there it was, just a beautiful pattern on its wings. So before we get to look at our dragonflies, we want to be able to sex them, right? We want to know a male from a female because we see so many immatures, and the immature male looks like a female. So we want to look at those cerci. The cerci are these long terminal appendages at the base of the abdomen. And this one you can kind of see the epiproct filling in behind. This is the female, same species, 12-spotted skimmer. You can see the color pattern is very similar. She's got a stockier body because she's going to be holding a lot of eggs, but her cerci are minimal, okay? Biology wise, we might call them vestigials. She doesn't really have a use for them. She's not going to hold on to anything with them. They're just there as a part of her DNA. So let's have a look at one more time. You can look at this one. Just by color, we would know that one, I think. But you can see long cerci here and here. Very minimal cerci here. So this is the female. This is a mature male eastern pond hawk, and this is the mature eastern pond hawk. All right, let's talk about dragonfly. Our 4 major groups in our area, we have we have emeralds, we have clubs. This emerald happens to be up in Minnesota. It's an emerald. We don't have it down here, but notice she's run into something and her forehead is dented there. All right, in Lake County, Indiana, I have found 6 darners to date. The common green darner is one that's very common. This happens to be head of a common green darner. It's got a bullseye up here on his nose, if you couldn't tell by his appearance, which we're going to see in a minute. Shadow darner is very common in wooded locations, especially swamp darner is our largest darner. So those are the 3 that I'm going to like. We darner county it on Lake Fairgrounds, and then this last summer I got a big maple, which is so parks. The lance tip I have only seen at Gibson Woods. I have only Gibson Woods. I have also though seen it at out in Porter County at, I can't think of the name of the place, but it's one of the parks in Porter County. So here's our common green darner. Very common, which is why they call it common. Green because of its thorax. Most darners do not have a green thorax. There are only 2 with a green thorax, the common green darner and the comet darner. So he got this name because this is the female, because the thorax is nice and green. The male has this beautiful blue. So sometimes you hear people say, I just saw a blue darner. Well, it really wasn't. It was the common green darner. And then this is a female, and she's got kind of a rusty colored abdomen. They have a very long flight season. I've seen them as early at Gibson Woods as March 19th. And I put October in here because that's what I believe. But we had one, I think like November 17th, a couple years ago. We were out for a fall walk and found a female common green darner out, and she was on her last days. She wasn't moving around too much, but we kept her alive a couple more days. And they're very common. We're going to see them probably almost on every body of water. You might see them a mile away from a body of water because once they emerge, they have to eat, and they will go to wherever they can find the food. The only reason they have to come back to water is to mate. This is the shadow darner. This is another large darner, 2.5 to 3 inches long. They emerge in July, so you're not going to see them early in the year like the common green darner. There's only a couple we see early. The swamp darner, the common green darner, and the spatterdock are the 3 I've seen early. The rest of them emerge in about July and last through the fall. Also very common. So if you see a darker dragonfly, large in size, it could be a shadow darner. The swamp darner is our largest darner, our largest dragonfly for that matter in the Midwest area, probably the whole East. It's about 4 inches. I would like to say it's longer than 4 inches because someone had one hit their window and they brought it into Gibson Woods and we measured it and it was a little over 4 inches. So it's a good size dragonfly, beautiful marble blue eyes, just a gorgeous dragonfly. And we can see them as early as April and in through September. And they like swamps and wood areas. I've seen one in my yard. So they're out there fairly common. So if you see a giant dragonfly and it's brown, whether you're not, you could see the green rings on its abdomen segment. I don't know, but they're all a swamp darner. Of emeralds in Lake County, the prince I have seen and the common basket tail. Prince basket tail I've seen in a number of places: Oak Ridge Prairie, Lake Etta, Lemon Lake, Three Rivers County Park. Of course, I work for Lake County Park, so that's where I spend a lot of my time dragonflying. Common basket tail, also Gibson Woods, Oak Ridge Prairie, out at Fancher Lake, which is again the county fairgrounds lake out there. So this is the Prince basket tail. This is my picture, unfortunately. It's the best I could do. I've not got a decent picture of one sitting. They are a patroller, so they're one of those dragonflies that doesn't want to sit down very often. This is someone else's. This is Bill Peak, the same guy who took that other picture. This is his picture. But even though I could only get a picture of this guy flying, I knew as soon as I saw it what it was because of its, what you might say, the field marks. First of all, I saw these green eyes, and so I knew it had to be an emerald. And then I knew that the Prince basket tail, although I hadn't seen one yet, had brown markings at the base, at the notice, and at the tip of its wings. So just by looking at those field marks while it was flying, I knew that I was seeing a Prince basket tail. And he's pretty good size. Some people might think he's a darner because he's a patroller, but because he's about 2.5 inches long, but he is an emerald. A flight season from June to August, so not a really long flight time, but we're gonna see him at small ponds and lakes and quiet little streams and things. The other emerald is the common basket tail. Early spring, if you're seeing a small brown dragonfly flying around, it's probably the common basket tail because they come out in late April and we don't see them much after July. I've never seen one in July, I don't believe. I've seen them in June and I've seen them early, but I've not seen them. I don't think I've ever seen one in July in our area. And again, they like small ponds and lakes. This is the female, and this is a basket of eggs, which is why they call them basket tails. They exude their eggs and then hold on to them and then go drop them all at the same time, where other dragonflies, like you saw, will just go to the water and release them over the water. So this is a male. And this is a female. This is at Gibson Woods. This one is at Oak Ridge Prairie. Clubtails, I'm supposed to be talking to you about common dragonflies. These, neither one are really common, but they're the only club tails I've seen in Lake County, so I figured we might as well look at some club tails. Club tails are named because their abdomens are larger at the back end. These aren't really large. Some of them have really large tips to their abdomens. This one is a unicorn club tail in Lake County. I have only seen it at Oak Ridge Prairie. And he's a unicorn because, well, club tails have, their eyes are separated, okay? And they have a little space, a little bar between. He happens to have a little crown here. It's pointed, so they call him the unicorn club tail. Years ago, dragonflies were only known by their scientific names. And a group of dragonfly enthusiasts decided that if the common people like me wanted to get to know dragonflies, they were going to have a name that they could relate to. So they all got together, whoever this group of people were, and they named them based on their descriptions or what they looked like. So the common green darner had this green thorax, so he was very common, so that's why he got his name. Shadow darner lurks in the woods, so he became the shadow darner. Swamp darner, well, guess where he likes to be? The marshes and places. The unicorn clubtail got his name because he's got this little crown which kind of sticks up, so he became the unicorn clubtail. Very short flight time, May to early July. I have only seen them as late as June, maybe 18th at Oak Ridge Prairie. This is a picture from June 11th. So I've never seen them in May. So they have a very, very short flight time. The other clubtail that I have seen, I found at Lake Etta County Park. It is the jade clubtail. It is considered rare. It's a very pale green, nice rusty club to its tail, and just a really pretty dragonfly. He's very faithful to be there. When I go, I've seen him in July. I've never seen him in May. Flight time says May to mid-July, but I've only seen them in July. I've gone to this park in June and have not run into them, but there's not a lot of them there. But he's always in this one location by some cattails, and I wish they wouldn't cut those cattails down. But he has him there since saw him. Right now I'm at 20. We're gonna over here by them, but there are a number of that are less common, but we want to just more dragon. So first, this is our most common, ubiquitous. He is everywhere. Blue dragonfly, only about an inch and 3 long. Flight season, May through. Did I just lose?
Yes,
Am I back?
you're back, but not the, could you bring up your presentation? The slideshow's not, it's not back.
Is it there or no?
No, it's not.
I don't have video either.
Never, okay, I see some snow.
Reshare my screen again?
Yeah, could, you had something on up there for a second. Okay, up the blue dasher. Okay.
Yeah. I have to figure out how to,
Enlarge it.
yeah, from current
There,
slide.
there you
All
got it.
right, there we got it. Sorry about that. Blue Dasher, I've seen it in at just about every place I've ever gone. As a matter of fact, it's the only dragonfly other than, well, it's the only dragonfly I've seen at a place called Sowerman Woods in Crown Point. When you get into the woods, I've seen other dragonflies, but on this pond that's there, it's the only dragonfly I've ever seen at that pond. And it's always full of duckweed, you know, so, but it's a very, very common dragonfly. And he likes to perch where you can see him. He seems to be a very friendly little dragonfly. This is the eastern pond hawk, another very common dragonfly, the only one with a green face. So if you're seeing a blue dragonfly with a green face, you know you've got yourself an eastern pond hawk. Probably called a pond hawk because he eats other dragonflies. He's out there busy eating all kinds of stuff. He's blue when he's mature. This is a not quite mature where he's turning from being green and is beautiful dark blue here. But the immature looks like the female. Very apple green color, very beautiful, deep, just shiny green color, you know, like for one of those green, I don't know what they call them, granny apples or something. Beautiful color. And I've seen him just about everywhere that I have gone. And he's got a long flight season too, May clear through October. We're going to find these guys. This, the reason he looks kind of white is most of the skimmers, as they mature, get something on their bodies called prunescence. It's a waxy white to gray coating, and it I don't know if it's protection or what it's for, but it gives them kind of a whitish appearance over their bodies. The slaty skimmer is also pretty common. This, I'm going to say, is my first favorite dragonfly because they're all my favorites, but he's a slaty blue color. Just, oh my goodness. And that's why they call him slaty skimmer. But he is gorgeous. His eyes, his thorax, his abdomen, they're all blue. He's about 2 inches long, so he's a nice sized dragonfly. Decent size flight season from June to September. Also common in just about any location. You can see here, I found him at Gibson Woods, Oak Ridge Prairie, Fancher Lake, Market Park Lagoon, Douglas Center. So I've seen him a lot of places. The female does not look anything like him. This is an immature male. This is the female. Very, very different in appearance. This is the 12-spotted skimmer, very common again. See them in my yard, see them all over the place. They're also very common. The male also gets this prunescence on his abdomen. The immature male looks like the female again. Even their wing spotting is very similar. They call him the 12-spotted skimmer because we're going to count the black spots. And he's got 3 on 4 wings, so that adds up to 12. So he is the 12-spotted skimmer. This is common whitetail. He's got that prunescence on him again, makes his abdomen extremely white. Hard to get a picture of that without it glaring. But he is a skimmer, but not in the king skimmer family. He's in a different genus. He's got a long flight time, May clear through September. Again, very common. I see him just about everywhere. He likes to be on the ground. He will perch on the ground, likes to be on a path, and we'll see them as we're walking, and they will kind of be down on the ground on the path where they're easily seen. Notice the difference in the wing pattern. This is the female, and she's got that 12-spotted skimmer look to her, except that she's got white angle marks on her abdomen. But the immature male, the wing pattern looks like the adult mature male with the one big black pattern in the center of the wing through the notice area. All right, so we're going to be able to tell the male from the female by their wing pattern. This is the widow skimmer, one of my favorite skimmers. Beautiful, beautiful color. Again, a little bit of prunescence on the abdomen of this one. Big black to, well, brownish black spots, and then white through the notice area. The female has that same pattern, but no white. And this I'm showing you is just the same widow skimmer male, but he doesn't have any prunescence yet. So you can see his abdomen is very similar to the female. Long flight time again, June through October, about 2 inches long. So they're still a pretty good size dragonfly, and we see them just about everywhere that I go when I go out dragonflying. Calico pennant we saw earlier. This is the adult male, female, and the appearance of the immature male, very, very similar to the female. Small in size, about 1.5 inches, 1 3/8 inches long. May to October. I've never seen any in October. I think the latest I've seen them is July. But that doesn't mean they're not out there. It's just that I've not been out in October to find them someplace. Not quite as common. I've seen them in 3 locations in Lake County, but I'm sure there are other places where they're seen. But where they're seen often. Now, Gibson Woods, I'm going to say no to that because I've only seen them there 2 years in a row, and then the last several years I haven't seen them. But our trails are a little bit different than they used to be, and maybe they've moved to a different location. Halloween pennant is another one of those, you can tell what it is by its name, Halloween, for the black and orange pattern on its wings. So it became the Halloween pennant. Long flight season, June through October. The male has the orange, the female is more of a yellow, but has the same markings on her wings. And again, it comes out in June, maybe mid-June, and we're going to see them clear through October in a number of locations. They like to perch up high on a perch. So if there's a tall piece of grass or something, you're going to see them up high, where the calico pennant, they tend to perch down in the grasses. There is one other pennant that is in Lake County, it's called pennant, that I've seen out at Fancher Lake, I think is, and I've seen it at Douglas Center. Those are the only 2 places. This is the Eastern Amber Wing. Got its name because of the amber color of his wings. He's one of our smallest dragonflies. He's only about 1 inch long. Looks like a little bee, especially the female. Look at her. She just looks like a little bee. She's a tiny little thing. They come out in May, and we may see them into October again. I don't do a lot of dragonflying in October, but maybe in southern Indiana we might see them a little bit more in the later months. Lots of places, again, where they can be found. I think the first time I saw them was at Lemon Lake. I've seen them at Gibson Woods. They're very common at Oak Ridge Prairie, Dowling Park in Hammond by the Gene Shepherd Center. Then our gliders, there are 2 gliders. I think you the wandering glider. They're a patroller. If you see a larger size dragonfly and it's yellow flying around, then it's more than likely a wandering glider. And they're a patroller. They're kind of slow flyers, though. They're easy to catch in a net. It's actually one that I caught in a net and then put it in the refrigerator for 5 minutes to cool it down a little bit so that it would sit still for me, and then I could take its picture. And then when it got warmed up, it took off and I didn't get to finish taking my pictures. But anyway, that's something that people do commonly to try to get a picture of a dragonfly. For all these books that you see, a lot of times if the picture says posed by it in some of these books, it's because they put it in a cooler for a couple of minutes to cool it down so that it wouldn't take off and fly off the bat. have seen this at Gibson Woods over at 129th Street by Wolf Lake. It's very common there. Roxana Marsh out at Lemon Lake are some of the places where I found him. Then we've got several members of the meadowhawk family. The ruby meadowhawk, I want to say, is the most common. These are all red. There's only one meadowhawk that's black in color. The rest of them have red on them. And they're very difficult to tell apart when they're younger. I thought originally that the ruby was the easiest to identify. It's got kind of a tan forehead and it's got these dark triangles on its abdomen, but I wasn't seeing a lot of the others. And when I went, I always post my dragonflies on Odonata Central to vet them to make sure that I know which one it is. And the only ones that they won't tell me for sure are the rubies, because they say that all other meadowhawks look like a ruby meadowhawk during some part of its life cycle. So unless you gather it up and look at its hamules, that's those reproductive parts here under the second segment, then you can't really identify it. But I'm saying that this is a ruby because he's not got a white face, he's not got a blue face, he's not got yellow legs. And so that kind of limits on what it is that I'm looking at. So we're going to say that this is a ruby meadowhawk. He's about 1.5 inches long, good long flight season, June to October. And you can see them usually just about most of the locations I've been to, I've seen a ruby meadowhawk. The other common meadowhawk that we see coming out in July is the autumn meadowhawk. It used to be called the yellow-legged meadowhawk because it has yellow legs. But as it gets older, its legs turn black, so it kind of looks like a ruby then. So since it's a late meadowhawk, you can see them clear into December. And I know somebody who saw one in December. Well, I know 2 people who saw one in December. They now call it they changed its name to the autumn meadowhawk. So anyway, July through December, kind of common dragonfly. In the fall. See a lot of them from August on. The female is one of the only skimmers that has a, oh my goodness, I'm having a brain freeze, a protrusion where she gives off her eggs. And so she's easy to tell, not that if you couldn't see her yellow legs, but this extra large abdomen kind of gives her away. This is the white-faced meadowhawk. Guess why? He's got a white face. All right, now before he's mature, that may look tannish colored or a little yellow. So he might look like that ruby. And so that's one of the issues with that. Curry's book says he's uncommon, but where he's at, he's locally common because we see them all the time at Gibson Woods. I've seen them regularly over at Coles Bog in Porter County, but not a lot of other places. I think I've seen them at Oak Ridge Prairie. I must have, because I wrote it down here. But May through October is their flight season, about the same size as the ruby meadowhawk. There are other meadowhawks. I've seen a blue-faced meadowhawk. There's a variegated meadowhawk. There's a bandweed meadowhawk. All meadowhawks common, or not common, but that have been found in Lake County. The last group of dragonflies are the saddlebags. This is a black saddlebags. Again, pretty good size, 2.5 inches about. Good flight time, April through September. And we see them everywhere. I've seen them at just about every location I've ever gone to. It's a very, very common, large dragonfly. Beautiful. They call them saddlebags because of this pattern they have on their hind wings. And then the red saddlebags, they consider to be uncommon, but I'm going to say again, it's locally common because this is the one we generally see at Gibson Woods. There is a Carolina saddlebags that is also red. The red saddlebags though has this window in its saddle right here. And if you see that, you know you have a red saddlebags. The Carolina saddlebags does not have that spot. So it's important if you, because the faces are either red or purple, and that can be kind of hard to tell. This is going to be our field identification spot if you get a chance to see that. And that is the male red saddlebags. If you want to study a little bit more about dragonflies, these are some of the books that I have. Of course, James R. Curry's book, Dragonflies of Indiana, I like because it's talking about Indiana dragonflies, although his county representations, I wouldn't, consider that the all end all be all, because we know now that I've got 36 dragonflies for Lake County, and he had only 11 listed, and we said 3 of those were historical. Dragonflies and Damselflies of the East by Dennis Paulson. That's like the Bible of dragonflies. He now has a second book out called Dragonflies and Damselflies in Natural History, which is an excellent read. But he's covering dragonflies from around the world, and some of them are just gorgeous. But he gives behavioral information there that is up to date and very, very interesting if you're interested in that book. Cindy Dunkel's book, Dragonflies Through Binoculars, is also one that I take with me everywhere because I like his descriptions in there. And then if you're out and about, Dragonflies of the Northwoods by Kurt Mead has beautiful pictures in it. Dragonflies and Damselflies of Northeastern Ohio has also got some really good dragonflies and excellent damselfly pictures in it as well. If you're into getting on the internet, I do all my vetting through Odonata Central. You could go to Odonata of the Eastern United States. If you have a dragonfly picture and put it up there and somebody's going to help you identify it there, you can put them on bugguide.net. At Gibson Woods, we started a page a few years ago called Dragonfly in the Midwest. For locally, if we wanted to share our dragonflies that we've been seeing around the area. So that's also available to you. And this is just a picture of that Carolina where you don't see the window in the wing. This was over at Oak Ridge Prairie. And I think that is the end of the presentation.
Okay, this is time for questions and answers. Is there anyone with a question?
Yes, Michael.
Yes.
Joe Kubel. I was just wondering, it seems to be that the dragonflies are around, if you look for them, between late March and December, early December, from what she said, if we look at the entire season. I just wanted to check if that's correct. And I wanted to find out also as if they are big mosquito eaters.
Yes, big mosquito eaters. Yes. And yes, the earliest flight times are like, and then they do, those meadowhawks will be around early December.
Thank you.
Stephen?
Loyce, I had a quick question for you. When you first started the presentation, you talked about dragonflies being around clean water. What about pH of water in terms of, like, does pH affect their
Wow.
their ability?
I don't know that I've done any reading on pH, but I'll bet you it must, because if it's too much one way or another, I don't think those nymphs could survive. Whatever a non-polluted pH might be.
Okay.
I don't know what a normal lake's pH is. I've never really done that, but that's an excellent question. I'll have to do some reading on that.
Yeah, we have a lot of water or that actually is like super high pH, and I think it's because of the slag, but yeah, it's like off the chart. But we do see a lot of dragonflies, so I wonder. But anyway, thank you.
Maybe it's not an issue. I'll have to read about that.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, Loyce, I just
Yeah.
want to ask you about whether the Heinz Emerald will come back to the Calumet area as well as some other rare dragonflies.
Heinz Emerald probably won't, because there's only been a couple of sightings in Indiana, but in DuPage County, Illinois, they do have a program for rearing them and putting them back to places where they have found them. They go out and gather the eggs, they raise them, and then they take them back to the same locations and put them out. They have a very interesting life cycle. And so they are trying to restore them to these specific locations in Illinois, for sure.
What about in Indiana?
No, there's no, they probably won't, because there's not an existing population, or they don't have, they only had the 1 or 2 sightings years ago. It could have just been one that flew into the area. They never found enough in Indiana to warrant bringing them to Indiana, I don't think. And that's what I was told. I went to a Heinz Emerald workshop a couple of years ago, and I asked them about, would they bring them back to Indiana? And the guy said, I didn't even know they were ever in Indiana. So it's just one of those fluke things. So probably not.
Any more rare dragonflies that you found in the Calumet area? Besides the one that you did, besides one that you saw?
The jade clubtail. Well, if you go to Pinhook Bog way out in LaPorte County, you're going to see the elephant skimmer, which probably that's the only place you're going to see it, because it's a bog type dragonfly, and it's the smallest. It's like 3/4 of an inch. It's itty bitty, and it's at Pinhook Bog, and the frosted whiteface is there also. And I've not ever seen them anywhere else. They kind of like that bog, a little more acidic environment.
Any dragonflies on the Illinois side, especially around Lake Calumet, Hagwish Marsh, and
I've never done any dragonflying in Illinois. I haven't ventured out that far yet. Matthew, did you have your hand up? I see your.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Nice to hear from you, Loyce. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I saw you back in the days when I was teaching at Purdue.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Yeah, long time. Yeah. Hey, Loyce. So this is a piggybacking off Stephen's question, actually. So do the dragonflies sort of occupy the same water space as nymphs and as adults? So is it, if you see adults there, do we expect nymphs there?
Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, there was a lady from Governor State University that had a permit to do some nymph testing. And what she was doing was taking the nymphs and cutting off like a little piece of their toe to get the DNA, so that she could find out what nymphs were in the area. She also said that she could take water samples and find the DNA just in the water samples and try to identify which dragonfly. So like if you were having trouble figuring one out, maybe that would be another way to figure out what it was. She never did send us her data, so I don't know. Oak Ridge Prairie with me once. But she had other locations that she was going to in Indiana. But yeah, if you see the adult, then it probably came from whatever the local wet spot was in that location.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I had a quick question. I missed the one slide because my computer was lagging. You said there was like 4 types: the darners, the emeralds, the clubtails, and then was there one more type?
The skimmers.
It was the skimmers. Okay.
Skimmers. The largest group we have
is the skimmers.
Skimmers, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Clubtails is a huge group of dragonflies also, but we don't have a lot of them. I've only seen a couple of them. There are a few more for Indiana in Curry's book, but I've not been lucky enough to run across them yet.
Okay, and the skimmers included the gliders and the dasher and all those other
Yes,
ones,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay,
Mhm,
thank you.
mhm. I do have a guide that I kind of made up of all of the dragonflies that we have found that we sell for bird food at Gibson Woods. It's kind of like an extra little thing that we sell. It just has all of the dragonflies that I have found and been able to take pictures of, and I try to put the male and the female and the immature male so that you can kind of see if you're ever interested in that. You can go by Gibson Woods and have a look at that. Or get one of these books. I mean, obviously Dennis Paulson's book, he's the resident expert in the United States on dragonflies. So
Thank you.
anybody else?
Hi, this is Mary Ann Kozlowski. I'm the steward, one of the co-stewards at Eggers Woods, which borders Indiana.
Okay.
I have a lot of dragonfly pictures and I haven't been able to identify most of them.
Well, send them. You can send them to me. I'll do my best.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And when can we order your guide that's available at Gibson Woods via the mail or anything? I would love to have it, just because the work you've done, it has to apply to Eggers. I mean,
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
It would be great to just, well, actually, to pick your brain. You're welcome anytime.
You can call me anytime you want.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I don't know if Michael has my phone number, but I can give it to you if you want it.
Okay, great. We'll work this out through Michael.
All right.
Presentation. Thank you so much. It was really great.
Anybody else? Any other dragonfly questions?
What's the relationship between Native Americans and dragonflies, both from stories and stuff like that?
I haven't studied that. I'm sorry.
Well, do you know anything about that, Blake?
Not really, but I'll have to look up into it.
Yeah. Well, I think whatever you find out, we'd be interested in learning that. Anybody else?
I know people consider them to be good luck, but other than that, I don't know. Well, thank you all. I appreciate you putting up with me.
All right. Stephen Bell says that was great. Thank you. So, and that's good. I want to thank you, Loyce, again. I've got you recorded this time, so,
Oh,
so we don't have to worry. And if anybody
you ever want to put together a group to go out dragon flying, I'm your person.
Okay, it would have to be at Wolf Lake because that's my area. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank
Well, thank
everybody
you.
for participating. We had a good group today and they hung in there. So thanks to everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Craig.